Good afternoon, everyone. We'll start our city council meeting for the afternoon of May 9th. Tony, would you please call the roll?
Jimenez, Torres,
Present.
Cohen,
Here.
Ortiz,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Goen,
Present.
Candelas,
Here.
Foley,
Here.
Batra,
Here.
Kamei, Mahan.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Great. Now, if you are able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. There we are. Today's invocation will be from Lead Filipino and Akbayan, and Councilmember Ortiz will tell us more.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to start the second invocation for the month of May. To recognize Asian American Pacific Islander Month, I thought it'd be fitting to invite Lead Filipino. Round of applause for Lead Filipino. Lead Filipino stands for Leadership, Education, Activism, and Dialogue, and is a nonprofit cultural and educational organization driven by the hearts of students, adults, and families out of San Jose, California. Since 2015, they've organized at the intersection of civic innovation, culturally responsive education, grassroots leadership development, and local economic development efforts. Their work and dedication have resulted in the naming of the Delano Manong Park in the north side of District 5, which captures the legacy of Filipino-American leaders Larry Itliong, Philip Veracruz, and the Manongs, who catalyzed the farm worker movement here in California. Rooted in their mission to increase representation of Filipinx AO Americans in public leadership, they create an environment for our members to engage in community-based campaigns, local cultural and educational programming, and statewide civil and human rights efforts. They've been able to create impactful relationships with youth-centered organizations such as Akbayan of San Jose State University, Filipino Youth Coalition, and the Bayani Gakabtan, I hope I said that right, Filipino American Justice School, to spread awareness about the Filipino culture and educate the youth around Filipino and Fil-Am history and identity. Most recently, they established a program called Bahay, Home of the Creatives, which is a community-made environment where local Fil-Am, AAPI, BIPOC, queer, and trans creatives are invited to shape what an unapologetic, safe, healing, and sharing space looks and feels like in the heart of the ever-changing San Jose community. And today, we have the distinct honor of hearing from Brent Cantillas, who goes by the artist name BRNTJC, and is a 19-year-old Filipino singer and songwriter from San Jose. He writes and performs original music influenced by genres including jazz, pop, and rock. Outside of music, he is currently a San Jose State University student and the member of Akbayan of San Jose State. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brent. I am an artist under Lead Filipinos Bahay, Home of the Creatives, and a member of Akbayan SJSU. And today I'll be performing a song titled Split by Nikki, which is about having conflicted feelings as an Asian American, feeling disconnected from both sides of your identity. West Coast winter, sun still a furnace, so I keep tanning, just never on purpose. I'm saturated in equal parts sun and doubt, so I turn the fan on high and hope I sweat it out. Christmas is coming, I miss my mama. Least I got my dad, but he's in Jakarta. It's raining there, but here it's dry as bone. Kinda wish I knew what I meant when I said I miss home. I guess I'm forever caught between two worlds. Right foot rock, left foot hard place, head and heart at war. I do my best between addresses. Wish I were on either side of the foreign wall. Always part of me missing, but no one sees a difference. 'Cause I split them all. Spread so thin, I'm low on emotional bandwidth. The voice in my head speaks a different language. And where I live, you're taught to be someone else, but where I'm from, they teach you to be by yourself. So hellos are short goodbyes, they're only half farewells. I guess I'm caught between two worlds. Left foot rock, right foot hard place, head and heart at war. I do my best between addresses. Wish I were on either side of the foreign wall. Always part of me missing, but no one sees the difference, 'cause I split them all. Always part of me missing, but no one sees the difference, 'cause I split them all. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your talent with us. That was beautiful. Thank you, Councilmember Ortiz. We're on to ceremonial items. Councilmember Torres, if you'd like to join me at the podium, we will recognize and proclaim May 10th as World Lupus Day.
Good afternoon. It gives me great pride to declare today, May 9th, as World Lupus Day. Lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease that affects millions of individuals worldwide. 1.5 million Americans have lupus, and 90% of those diagnosed are women of color. Unfortunately, lupus runs in my family, and I know firsthand the challenges that it brings to my mother, my aunts, and a bunch of cousins that I have, and including their friends and other folks in my circle. And unfortunately, we also, in my family, male-identified family members who have lupus. So it does happen to men, unfortunately, and I actually have to go and get tested every 6 months because it runs in my family. So the skin, the joints, kidneys, and other organs are just a few of the body components that this illness has potential to inflame and harm. And unfortunately, there is no known cure. World Lupus Day allows us to promote research towards improved cures and treatment, while also spreading awareness for the challenges and the difficulties of who it endures every day. It is my honor to acknowledge the Lupus Foundation of Northern California, who has served the lupus community for more than 40 years. Thank you for servicing an ethnically and economically diverse population with your support services and educational programs. Not only are they focused on those living with lupus, but also constantly researching and advocating for a cure. And we hope, and we all hope we get one. I now invite Thomas
Bakewell, Interim Executive Director of the Lupus Foundation of Northern California, to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members, and especially Councilmember Torres. Thank you very much. My name is Tom Bakewell, and I'm the interim director, executive director for the Lupus Foundation of Northern California. I joined in February, and I'll transition into the full-time role next month while I wind down from my current position. And as Councilman Torres said, we've been the foundation has been running continuously now for over 45 years. Our founder, Joe DeWurst, who was also a lupus patient, founded the organization in 1978. And when she received the diagnosis in the 70s, it took about 6 years to get that diagnosis. It's very complicated and complex autoimmune disease. When she received the diagnosis, her doctor was not able to tell her a whole lot about it. And so she went to the Stanford University Medical School bookstore and bought a very thick book on rheumatological disease, which we still have in the office. There was one paragraph in the book on lupus, and it said, lupus is a fatal disease that affects young women. And she said, this is totally unacceptable, and formed this organization with the principles of providing information, support, and services to a wholly underserved organization. And that is still our mission today. We provide free of charge services to lupus patients and their family members because, as you know, Councilman Torres, as do I, with my late mom having lupus and my oldest daughter have lupus, it's difficult to watch. It's very difficult to see this. And so we provide services to the patients and their loved ones, including core education programs, support services for patients and family members, first in the nation buddy program that pairs a lupus patient with someone recently diagnosed, Saturday virtual doctor office visits that are generously donated by local rheumatologists, as well as other support services and 18 chapters spanning all of Northern California. So again, to Mr. Mayor and the council members, thank you very, very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all this afternoon and for the commendation. We appreciate it. On behalf of the board and the staff, we appreciate what you're doing and the acknowledgement and giving us a few moments to speak today. Thank you.
The mayor will give that time.
Councilmember Foley, if you'll join me at the podium, we will recognize and proclaim May as Bike Month.
They're all outside, I'm sure. Good afternoon, everyone. As the Bike Coalition comes forward, today I'm proud to proclaim May as Bike Month in the city of San Jose and invite all residents to join the fun across the Bay Area as we celebrate Bike Month. Whether you bike every day or once every couple of months, I invite and encourage you to join fellow bicyclists, neighbors, and community members to participate in any of this month's events throughout the Bay Area, such as group rides, classes, events, and volunteer opportunities. One of the most fun ways you can join this month is by pledging to ride and joining our community on May 18th through the 20th, that's next week, for Bike to Wherever Days, which include free giveaways and Energizer stations across San Jose and beyond. With me today are several members representing the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition to accept this proclamation. The Silicon Valley Bicycle Proclamation, the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, thank you, that's a mouthful, has led the effort in Santa Clara County to encourage bicycling this month to wherever, whether that may be to work, to run a quick errand, or just for fun. In addition to bringing cyclists together across the region, they have also been tireless advocates for street safety and Vision Zero, safety for everyone, not just cyclists. Lastly, I want to remind all road users to share the road safely with bicyclists throughout our city. And remember to look right before you turn right to see who's crossing over. Before Mayor Mahan presents his proclamation, I'd like to invite Mikhail Harry Lou from Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition to say a few words.
Thank you, Councilmember Foley. Hello, my name is Mikhail Haurilo, and as a part of the Silicon Valley Bike Coalition San Jose local team, I'm excited to accept this proclamation. Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition local team is a group of San Jose residents who are passionate about not only making streets safer, but also making the communities more just and healthier. I have few members of our team with us today, but there are many more of us. We are trying to make San Jose streets safer, not only for bicyclists, but for all San Jose residents in or out of car. Last year, unfortunately, marked the highest number of traffic-related deaths in the city of San Jose as recorded in the last 5 years. That's why it's important to fully fund the Vision Zero in the next budget meeting next month, so that we can build infrastructure on the city streets and on priority corridors, and make sure that everyone, all the residents, are safe. Once again, I would like to thank you, and happy Bike to Work Month.
I will be biking to work next week as part of Bike to Wherever. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Councilmember Foley. It was great to be out with you and Councilmember Dewan yesterday to announce our Slow Down San Jose public education campaign to remind drivers to slow down, to protect our cyclists, pedestrians, and everybody who's using our roadways. So now we are on to Councilmember Davis, who's going to be recognizing our Conservation Corps Member of the Year. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember Davis.
Good afternoon. I am excited to introduce you to Rosalina Lopez, who is here today to accept a commendation for her hard work with the San Jose Resilience Corps. Our Resilience Corps supports unemployed adults by providing them with job opportunities that focus on city climate resiliency and career development planning. Rosalina has been a Corps member since the pandemic and has led many vegetation management projects that have improved San Jose's green spaces. By learning both hard and soft skills with the Corps, Rosalina feels more confident in her abilities, which has led to many more of her accomplishments. While leading projects with the San Jose Corps, Rosalina was able to pay for a citizenship class at West Valley College and became a U.S. citizen. Yeah. Rosalina also received the AmeriCorps Education Award, earned her driver's license, and bought a car. Rosalina, these achievements have happened surely because of your can-do attitude and your courage to take advantage of local opportunities and resources like the San Jose Corps program. We're glad to see you blossoming, and we know your daughters are very proud of you. Thank you for all your hard work for our city, and we are grateful to have a Corps member like you. I'd like to invite you now to say a few words, and then the mayor will present you with your commendation.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here spending a day with you. First of all, I want to thank God for allowing me to leave this opportunity and receiving this commendation from the city of San Jose and Councilmember Deb. Secondly, thank you to my family and friends, especially to my parents, Jose Luis Garcia and Rosa Sanchez, and my sister Miriam Garcia for taking the time to be here and for all the support they have given me these past 2 years. to my daughters Dalila Sanchez and Makaya Sanchez, because they are the reason why I signed up for the program. And all the experience that I'm gaining is because you motivate me to continue going to the court and in order to provide you with the best in life. Thank you, daughters, for having me the patience to wait in the after-school program until I get off work to pick you up. Thank you, San Jose Conservation Corps, for having this program for young adults who find themselves in difficult situations and don't know who to turn to, for having staff and programs that really help core members to go on a good path, make good decisions, and help us excel in order to have a better future. Thanks for your unconditional support, Liz Beatty, my field supervisor, Paola from AmeriCorps, Evelyn from Support Service, Brianna, my manager from Resilience Corp, Ileana, my current supervisor, and all staff from the Corp. Thank you to Mayor Matt, Vice Mayor Kamei, and the entire San Jose City Council for your faith and investment in the Resilience Corp. During the pandemic, this city council had the force to create a program that will both employ young people needing jobs and that will serve some of the most important needs in San Jose. And I'm also grateful to the San Jose staff from PRNS, former Mayor Ricardo, and former city council members. This program changed the course of my life, and I will forever be grateful. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for sharing your story with us. It was really inspiring. Here you go. That's on behalf of the whole city council.
Thank you, and this is for everyone.
Let's all gather in here. Your daughters.
Yeah.
Here, let me move this out of the way. All right. Thank you all. Those were some great ceremonial items. We're on to orders of the day. Does anyone on the council have any changes to the printed agenda? Not aware of any? Okay. We will move on to the closed session report.
Thank you, Mayor. We do not have a report out of closed session today.
Thank you, Nora. Next is the consent calendar. Are there any items that the council would like to pull from consent?
Mayor, I'm trying to remember the number. It's the VTA item on the 101. Let's see. Let me.
I have it here.
They already. Oh, it's the 212.
212.
Yeah,
okay.
just a question.
So Councilor Jimenez would like to pull 212. Why don't we go to that item?
Cool. John, I know you're here. First and foremost, thank you to obviously the DOT staff and the VTA staff that were able to address some of the screen issues for some of the residents that are in my district on the, eastern side of 101. So thank you for all that work. I did have, I figured it'd be a good time to ask you this question instead of sending you pictures, sending you an email, so we could just wrap it up here. But the part of the alignment goes down onto to Monterey Road, and some of it looks unfinished. There's actually like a light there that seems like it's still covered up, and so I was curious if you could just very quickly share sort of, because it seems almost like we're done, but it doesn't seem like we're done, and I'm curious as to what the status is.
Thank you, Councilmember John Russo, Director of Transportation. So particular to the two items that you were bringing up, the visual screen was discovered kind of late in the project, so we added additional screening for residents on the east side of the project, east of 101. Although the project is essentially open for all traffic, pedestrian and vehicles, there's still work that are still yet to be done on the Monterey intersection with Blossom Hill. That traffic signal has not been activated yet, so
Okay.
it's still yet to be turned on. So.
And do you, so thank you for that. I suspected that, but I wanted to ask because I don't want to assume. Along the, leading up to the traffic signal on Monterey Road, as you approach the on-ramp to take you up to Blossom Hill Road, are we missing any planting of trees or anything of that nature? Is any of that due to, if you know off the
there
top of your
could
head?
be- Yeah, there could be some additional plantings that are still yet to be done, so we're just wrapping up the project. But I can check with that. and
Okay,
I
all
know
right.
the signal's not activated. but
Okay,
We
we'll
can
touch
check on
base at some
the
point.
landscape.
Wonderful. Okay, I just didn't want to make sure it was done because I was like,
Yep.
I don't think it's done. Thank you for that.
bet.
Appreciate it. And I'll move approval of all consent in addition to this item? Yeah.
Okay,
I'll second that.
great. Thanks, Vice Mayor. I don't see any other hands. Let's vote. Oh, I'm sorry. We need public comment. Apologies.
Blair? Blair Beekman?
Hi, Blair here. Blair here. Hopefully my Zoom won't be cutting out. Happy meeting to everyone today. If my Zoom cuts out, just say the word. I'll know. Interestingly, items 2.9 and 2.12 may be connected in some way. Both will have issues of components of technology involved. The use of future surveillance technology on the Blossom Hill project, and 2.9 is an interesting item about future engineering of projects, trail projects. And so both of those items, like I always say for trail projects, the city of Davis has some really great examples of technology, surveillance technology ordinance ideas for trail issues that I always recommend to yourselves to look into. And boy, it's open accountability practices are great and always needed in our lives. Just a friendly reminder of those things. I think there's another item on today's agenda on the consent that may be connected. Interesting connection on today's agenda consent calendar for these sort of items of tech accountability. Thanks.
Back to the council.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Let's vote.
Batra? Got you. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to the report of the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have a report today.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, item 4.1, which is the military equipment annual report, and we do have a presentation. Welcome, and feel free to jump in whenever you're ready.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Justin Morrow, and I am the department's commander of the Merge Unit, and I will be presenting the military equipment annual report today. So, Assembly Bill 481 was signed into law by Governor Newsom in September of 2021. The law was designed to increase transparency and oversight in the funding, acquisition, and use of military equipment. It requires law enforcement agencies possessing military equipment to have policies and supporting documentation available to the public. Acquisition and use of such equipment must be approved by the governing body, in this case the City Council. Law enforcement agencies must produce an annual report, which was completed by our department, and law enforcement agencies must hold public meetings concerning the use of military equipment, which we conducted May 1st of 2023. As a result of the law, San Jose Police Department created guidelines and policy governing the use of equipment. This, of course, is in addition to our already existing duty manuals and policies and procedures. And we began tracking the use of military equipment July 1st, 2022. This report will cover the period from July 1st, 2022 to the end of 2022. So there are 14 categories of military equipment as defined by AB 481. Category 1 are unmanned, remotely piloted, powered aerial and ground vehicles. Currently, the department has 33 of these vehicles, 21 UAVs, and 12 ground vehicles. Total deployments are, the annual cost is $8,500, and deployments of $199 for this reporting period. 170 of those were UAV flights, and 29 deployments of ground vehicles. Category 2 of the military equipment is defined as mine-resistant, ambush-protected MRAP vehicles or armored personnel carriers. We currently have one vehicle. You can see pictured that is the MRAP. Its annual cost of $6,500, and it had 3 deployments during this reporting period, one for a community event, one's for training, and one on a critical incident involving a barricaded subject. During the period not covered by this report, it was deployed to Monterey County as a mutual aid request as a high water rescue vehicle. Category 3 are defined as high mobility multi-purpose wheeled vehicles, also known as Humvees, 2-ton and half-ton trucks, 5-ton trucks, or wheeled vehicles that have breaching apparatus attached. In the picture, you can see both of our Bearcats, which fall into this category. We have a total of 3 vehicles that fit this description. The annual cost of $19,500, and there were 30 deployments during this period. The two vehicles pictured here are a great deal of use during critical incidents, typically with armed barricaded subjects. Category 4, military equipment is defined as tracked armored vehicles that provide ballistic protection to their occupants and utilize a track system instead of wheels or forward motion, excuse me. We have 0 of these vehicles. What is pictured there is referred to as the Rook. That is an armored Bobcat type vehicle that the department does have a request to acquire. Category 5 are commonly referred to as, are defined as command and control vehicles that facilitate the operational control and direction of public safety units. We have 6 of these vehicles. I've had 48 deployments, and these vehicles get a lot of use during critical incidents and special events. These types of vehicles provide a platform for which members of the department can plan and communicate from. Category 6 equipment are weaponized aircraft, vessels, or vehicles. The department has 0, nor do we have an intention to acquire any such equipment under this definition. Category 7 are battering rams, slugs, and breaching apparatus that are explosive in nature. We do have various dimensions and numbers of these. Their annual cost is about $6,000, just over $6,000. And during this operational period, there were 3 deployments of this type of equipment, once for training and twice during critical incidents. This material can be placed on doors to deliver a kinetic charge to force the door or gate open. It's generally used when putting personnel in front of a door for an extended period of time would be a great safety concern. And there are 2 different incidents that was used. Category 8 and 9, firearms and ammunition over 50 caliber. We do not currently possess any of that equipment. Category 10 are specialized firearms and ammunition less than 50 caliber, including assault weapons as defined under sections 3510 and 3515 of the Penal Code. We have 439 of these, and there were 0 deployments during this reporting period, although we did have, just prior to the reporting period and just in this current reporting period, we did have incidents, but during this period, there were none. Category 11 is defined by any firearm or firearms accessory that is designed to launch explosive projectiles. We have 8 of these. This equipment, we had 2 different deployments. So it was originally 3, but it was corrected in the log as to 2. The equipment was deployed along with Category 7 used event, as well as another barricaded subject event during this period. Category 12 are defined as flashbangs, grenades, and explosive breaching tools, tear gas, and pepper balls, excluding standard service-issued handheld pepper spray. We have over 1,300 pieces of this equipment. The deployments of about 27 are 27 during this reporting period, and the majority of those were what are referred to as flashbangs or noise flash devices used specifically by our Special Operations Division officers. Category 13 are defined as taser shockwaves, microwave weapons, water cannons, and long-range acoustic devices. Of this category, we only possess the long-range acoustic devices, the LRADs. We have 7 of them. Their annual costs are $5,000, and there have been 13 deployments, primarily and specifically only used for public announcement purposes, specifically during the heavy rain we've had. They were used quite extensively going up and down the waterways, warning residents and community members of the dangers of potential floods. Category 14 is defined as projectile launch platforms and their associated munitions, 40 millimeter projectile launchers, stun bags, rubber bullets, and specialized impact munitions. We have 256 of these launchers. There are just over 3,300 of the munitions. The cost is just over $23,000, and there were 16 deployments during this reporting period, and there's basically a less lethal option during a critical incident. So with the military equipment use considerations, we feel it's necessary because there's no reasonable alternative that can be achieved with the same objective of officer safety and community safety, reasonably cost-effective as compared to available alternatives. And the military equipment, most importantly, military equipment shall only be used by department employees only after applicable training, including any course required by the Commission of Peace Officer Standards and Training has been completed unless there's some exigent circumstances. The estimated annual cost of possessing and acquiring military equipment is at $1.5 million. This includes ongoing purchase costs and maintenance of existing equipment, the ongoing purchase costs of ammunition, and additional equipment. And as it was explained in the PISFIS presentation, this reporting period had a higher number of amount of expenditures on ammunition due to COVID. The year there was a backlog of requests for purchase of ammunition, but it didn't work its way here until finally this last reporting period for this. So the cost for ammunition is higher in this case just as unforeseen circumstances. And as for tracking for complaints, during this reporting period, there have been 3 complaints lodged to Internal Affairs, 2 of which related to the either use or display of a stun bag shotgun, and 1 by the use of a flashbang, all are being investigated by Internal Affairs. 1, after thorough investigation, has been determined to be unfounded, and the other 2 are ongoing investigations at this point. The Law Enforcement Support Office Program, authorization still remains to participate in this program, and we currently have no acquisitions to report during this period. And then also in compliance with our public outreach and transparency, our SJPD webpage has a military equipment program page for community members to access and refer to memorandums and other documentation and explanations of the equipment. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you. Let's go to public comment first.
Blair, followed by Paul.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for the presentation. You presented these things once before at a PISFIS meeting mid-April. Thank you. Thank you that the public from this presentation can look on the website and look for a little bit more information and hopefully talk to yourselves, and you can offer some clarity where needed. At the PISFIS meeting, you had 2 persons from the American Friends Services Committee speak of how you can be more accurate and exact in how to share information and what information can be shared. Good luck in those continuing efforts. To really remind, these practices and concepts are basically how to leave the era of war and the era of 9/11, which I think we should all be considering as a very horrific time in our lives that I think, would want to, as much as possible, find ways to leave that era and that way of thinking And I think it's the future of public oversight and it's good guideline practices. It's community participation and openness and accountability. When you do those things together, that's building positive sustainability. That's building open democracy, participatory democracy, and ideas of peace and not war. Basically, it brings out those better practices of ourselves. So I really hope the police want to really make efforts to do this work and add to it when people want to help add to it. They're not there to hurt you. They're here to help. We're here to help build a better future. We should be open to that. And I really thank you in these good efforts. I hope we can continue and just really build transparency and openness and that we don't have to fear asking questions what types of equipment we're using. And thank you towards the previous speakers that we really have to question.
Paul, followed by Victor.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I think there's a confluence of issues that need to be articulated with respect to the use of military equipment on civilian populations. You're recruiting from the police department, you're recruiting rank and file from the military. Okay, so they have a certain type of mentality and familiarity with this equipment. And what they do is they use this equipment on enemies, terrorists, other countries where they're deploying this equipment and they're using them against people that they have absolutely no respect for. None whatsoever, nothing. And they lose nothing by using that on them. So there's a dehumanization kind of mentality related to the use of this equipment. That's number one that needs to be understood and articulated. It's okay to talk about that. When you continue to ignore it, it doesn't go away. Just because you ignore the truth doesn't mean the truth goes away. So what we did is we also recruited from Fort Hood. We were very active in recruiting from Fort Hood, Texas. So there's a lot of cops in the police department that are from Fort Hood, the most racist, deadliest compound in the entire military. Remember Vanessa Gillian? Murdered there. There's been a lot of racist murders there. The San Jose Police Department was recruiting from that particular place, specifically for that reason. These are killers. And so when you put military equipment in the hands of military personnel on a civilian population, you're going to have it.
Victor, followed by Richard.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. I'm Victor Sin, Chair of the Santa Clara Valley Chapter of the ACLU of Northern California. I respectfully request you to reject the current annual report until it is in full compliance with Assembly Bill 481. Attachment B tabulates the information per category of equipment, while the law mandates this listing to be per type of equipment. Type is defined as each item that shares the same manufacturer model number. AB 481 requires a summary of how the military equipment was used and the purpose of its use. The annual report states that 66 entries were for police activity. The phrase police activity is overly broad and does not adequately disclose how the weapons were used. AB 481 requires the reporting of the total annual cost for each type of military equipment. In the annual report, it is unclear whether personnel costs and training costs are included. The report should tabulate the source of funding and the name of each grant program, if applicable, for each type of equipment. In addition to the annual report, AB 481 prescribes responsibilities for City Council to review and approve use policies for military equipment. We encourage you to take this opportunity not only to determine whether each type of military equipment has complied with the standards for reporting approval, but to also review and update the military equipment use policy. For example, the current use policy describes authorized military equipment use, but not prohibitions. Phrases including exigent circumstances or when deemed necessary are used several times throughout use policy, but are not further defined. Thank you.
Richard?
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Richard Condon, Executive Director of the Asian Law Alliance. I wanted to add my voice to the voice of Victor Sin, who just spoken very eloquently. We also feel that the report is deficient and should not be adopted, and you should ask that the report be sent back. And the deficiencies that Victor has outlined are really important to be remedied. So in short, I don't want to go over the same ground that Mr. Sin did, but I would just say that we urge the City Council to not approve this report until it's revised and it is in full compliance with Assembly Bill 481. Thank you very much.
Back to the council.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Batra.
Thank you for that report. I think you have shown by this report that you have been very considerate in the equipment you need to provide defense service for the community and for the police officers who put their life on the line every day. And you've been very careful in choosing that, the equipment you need, and you reported in detail the acquisition and the deployments. I do have one question about deployments. When the county or other cities borrow any of the equipment and they use it, does that get counted in this deployment?
Thank you for your question, sir. Anytime that there's a mutual aid request from another agency requesting for us to respond, usually in things like the Bearcats that you saw, those have been commonly deployed to a request recently to the Sheriff's Department where they had a deputy be shot. Our personnel will go with that equipment to support them, and yes, we do report that accordingly as a deployment.
All right, thank you. And the training for this equipment, does that happen locally or it is provided by the military from the acquisition of these equipment?
We do not send any officers to any military for the use of the equipment. The only all training is provided usually through other law enforcement agencies or private companies. But the military, we do not bring military here to train on these things or send people to military bases to use them.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that you have a website where all this information is available. I think in our communications with the community, we will try to publicize that so that the website gets a good usage and the community is well informed about the information, that what equipment you have, what you have deployed. And so I make a motion to accept your report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. See no other hands. Let's vote.
Motion passes 10-0 with Davis absent.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you for the presentation. Let's go on to item 5.1, which is the report on bids and award of contract for local street resurfacing. And let's go to public comment.
I have no hands up.
Okay, back to the council. Move approval. That was Candelas?
Second.
And second from Duan. Don't see any hands. Let's vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. On to item 5.2, report on bids and award of contract for another set of resurfacing projects. And do we have public comment?
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. These are resurfacing contracting issues. I guess this can fall under Measure T stuff. You guys have done some really good work with Measure T and its commission process. It's a public oversight board. Remember, you guys really needed to have a public oversight board for Measure T for a very specific reason. And public oversight is a really important concept. And for you guys to vote 10-0 on the military hardware item when you were getting good people, policymakers on tech issues to question what's going on, that is a bit of a problem that I take a bit of concern about. But overall, just good luck how we continue to consider the concepts of oversight and what oversight offers ourselves. Public oversight offers our process. And it's not just policymakers. It's a full community process. Good luck in those efforts to be working on that, as Measure T is doing well. They're doing a good example, a good show on how to do that. I hope we can use those examples in other places in the city in the future. Thank you.
Back to the council.
Thank you. Do we have a motion on item 5.2?
Move approval.
Second.
Second, sorry.
A second from Davis. Thank you. And Councilmember Dewan, did you have your hand up?
Nope, cancel that. Thanks.
Okay, I'll clear your name and let's vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you, Tony. Okay, we're on to item 6.1, proposed amendments to the municipal code and adoption of City Council Policy 6-28 and amendments to policies 6-29 and 8-14. This is all related to stormwater and compliance with the municipal regional stormwater permit. That was a mouthful. All right, we have a staff presentation and let's jump in.
Thank you so much, appreciate it. So good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council and public. My name is Reggie Nair. I'm Deputy Director of Watershed Protection and Environmental Services Department. For today's presentation, our goal is to provide a brief overview of two provisions, C3 and C12, in the stormwater permit, and how this will impact the city's ordinances and policies to achieve regulatory compliance. Towards the end of this presentation, I'll share our outreach efforts in planning, Commission's concerns, and recommendations. As you may recall, the city has two separate systems. The sanitary sewer system is a series of connected pipes where the water is treated at the regional wastewater facility. Then eventually the clean water is discharged into the bay. For a storm sewer system, that is not the case. Approximately 1,700 outfalls discharge directly into our waterways untreated. The goal of our work is to prevent pollution from entering both the sanitary and storm sewer collection systems. So under the Federal Clean Water Act, the US EPA requires any water that's discharged into the waterways to be treated through a permit, an NPDES permit. In California, it is unique because this is administered through another agency called the State Water Resource Control Board, which is comprised of 9 regions. In our area, highlighted in the blue circle on the left, is the Region 2 San Francisco Bay Area Regional Water Quality Control Board, which includes a total of 76 permittees, including San Jose, within 5 counties, and that's Santa Clara, Alameda, San Mateo, Contra Costa, and Solano. And as shared before with council and members of the public, this slide depicts the current state water health conditions of both Guadalupe River and Coyote Creek, based on data collected by the Water Board and approved by the EPA. Information on any waterway throughout the country can be found on this website. It's mywaterway.epa.gov. The left of the slide is a depiction of the state of Guadalupe River, which has sources of pollutants resulting from mercury, pesticides, and trash. The right of the slide is Coyote Creek, which shows sources of pollutants that are slightly different, which are resulted from pesticide, toxic chemicals, and also trash. All right, and also a reminder in the new permit that it has been reissued and it is effective as of July 1st, 2022. There are other changes within this permit that will require ordinance and policy changes to be updated in a phased approach. However, this presentation is just going to focus on provisions C3 and C12 that will need to be effective as of July 1st, 2023. These changes are necessary so the city has the ability to enforce. So for C3, the provision focuses on new and redevelopment projects. There are different types of projects where developers and roadway projects will be required to install green infrastructure. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the concept, green infrastructure is a treatment system for stormwater runoff before it enters into our storm sewer system and eventually discharges into the bay. So for commercial, municipal, and multi-dwelling units, the past permit focused on 10,000 square feet or more impervious surface. The new permit includes any project created or replacing 5,000 square feet or more of impervious surface. And thing to note about this 5,000 square feet, it also can include public right-of-way, which are sidewalks and driveways. For a single-family home, it was originally exempted, but now the new permit will focus on 10,000 square feet or more impervious surface that's disrupted. For small projects, the threshold was reduced to 2,500 from 5,000 square feet, and this pertains to disconnecting downspouts or rerouting stormwater runoff to landscaped areas. Roadway projects, particularly maintenance, was exempt, but now the new permit will focus on projects of 1 acre or more and any utility trenching on an average of 8 feet wide or more. And lastly, the permit requires each city to implement green infrastructure. And so for San Jose, we're required to build a minimum of 5 acres, which we will comply with the future of the River Oaks Regional Project. So for provision C12, which is the polychlorinated biphenyls controls, the main intent of this provision is to focus on reducing PCBs entering into our waterways, which are essentially toxic, and there are unhealthy quantities that are within our San Francisco Bay. As such, the Water Board has specified 4 programs on how to address these issues, but today's presentation, we're just going to focus on one of them, which is called the PCB Building Demolition Program. This was first required to be implemented under our last permit in July, as of July 1st, 2019. And now, under this new permit, it's going to be required to be expanded further. So what the new permit entails for PCB building demolition program starting after July 1st, 2023 is actually highlighted in green on the screen. Contractors shall provide notification to the city, the Water Board, and the US EPA at least 1 week before the demolition. The other part is the city inspects demolition sites beginning the 2023 rainy season. And lastly, the city needs to obtain official documentation that materials containing PCBs are properly disposed. And these are through hazardous waste manifest forms. And just for reference, what an applicable structure means, it is a building that was constructed or remodeled between January 1st, 1950 through December 31st, 1980. And these next few tables are just a high-level summary for council just to reference the various ordinance changes. And so this slide that we're looking at are changes to Titles 5 and 20 in order to meet both the provisions C3 and C12 that I discussed. Let's see. Go to the next slide. Okay. And this slide is particularly just focusing on ordinance changes related to Title 15 so that we can further enforce these regulatory requirements. And lastly, this slide summarizes the creation of a new policy, 628, for the PCB building demolition program under provision C12 that I discussed, and updating some existing policies, 629 and 814, for new and redevelopment programs under provision C3. So the outreach efforts that have been done to date are as follows. One of the organizations that we're a part of within our county is the Santa Clara Urban Runoff Pollution Prevention Program. You may have heard the acronym SCVRP. And the city have been, it's a great one, have been updating standards and guidelines, documents to meet the C3 requirements, the new ones. Currently, there are PCB demolition forms, guides, et cetera, that are on the city's website and will be updated once we get final approval from our regional partners As I mentioned, this is a regional effort, and the Water Board. Currently, Public Works departments have been communicating the new C3 requirements through the permit review process with the various partners. And also, Environmental Services Department partnered with Planning, Building, Code Enforcement, and Office of Economic Development to provide information about the PCB demolition program. So below, this slide just really just captures some of the main concerns that were raised at the Planning Commission on April 12th of this year. The cost to build low impact development, LID for short, is really just dependent on site conditions. It's really difficult to just get an actual cost of what this could really mean, and also just the size of the project. The other concern that was raised is with the lowered thresholds with regards to the provision C3. This could increase the number of permit applications, therefore potentially requiring the need to increase fees. Also, the current PCB building demolition program is going to be funded by general fund for right now, until we have further data to understand the magnitude of this program, whether fees should be imposed or not. Just for reference, we are estimating about 5 permits per year that fall under this provision, so just to understand the scale of this. Also, we will be evaluating racial equity impacts associated with this program, because Planning Commission did share that lowering the thresholds could open up more a different range of developers who might be new to this requirement, and so just how that we ensure that we're explaining what is required by the state and feds. And also, we will educate the public on the new enforcement requirements and provide translation as needed. So in conclusion, staff recommends council to approve the ordinance changes as shown in within Titles 5, 15, and 20, and adopt a resolution for approving a new council policy for 628. In addition, amend existing policies 629 and 814, as well as adopting a new resolution to amend administrative citation of fines, schedule of fines. So thank you. This concludes my presentation.
Great, thanks, Rajani. Let's go to public comment.
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for this item. These stormwater issues are actually happening up and down California, from Oakland to San Jose to San Diego. You're getting a lot of new federal funding dollars for these programs, and they're making very strong demands that you have to comply with environmental concerns and requirements of the PCB issues. That is allowing yourselves, and I'm assuming Oakland and San Diego too, to kind of have a field day, free pass on basically kicking out homeless people and harassing them and getting them out of creeks and waterways and such. And you have a free pass now. How long is this free pass going to continue for? I mean, I can understand there's a certain urgency of the now for these things, but I don't think this can continue, this sort of work. And I think we have to be sure to have some sort of a conversation about that what we're doing to the homeless out of these issues right now is just a one-time thing, and it will stop eventually, won't it? I mean, you guys are going to continuously, it's going to give you a free pass to just harass homeless people endlessly? Or is there a way to begin conversations with the homeless who live by the creeks and ask them to make adjustments and work on those sort of issues and make it a participatory process that we make changes together towards the future? And I mean, it's that kind of stuff you really have to work on. I know it's a lot, but it's communication, and that's not going to be my new phrase this summer. You just have to be able to have dialogue and communicate, what these needs are instead of just kicking people out. Good luck how to have a conversation about this with the public. We can't do this forever. Please learn to talk about it openly and how to balance the issue. Thank you.
Back to council.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Kameh.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the staff. This is a lot of work, and I know this is just the beginning, but from the last time you came before us, to where you are now, it's a lot of work. And I recognize that, having come from where I did at the Water District. With that, I'd really like to move staff recommendation.
Second.
Sorry, my mic was off. Thank you, Councilmember Candelas, for the second. Motion by the Vice Mayor. Councilmember Dewan.
Thank you, staff, for putting together the report. I just got a quick question on slide number 7 on single-family homes, 10,000 square feet or above. What is the estimate cost for a homeowner to retrofit to meet the requirement?
As I mentioned before, it does vary in costs, and unfortunately the city doesn't have a lot of the private development cost summary. We do have public, but the scale is so much bigger. So it would be difficult to really assess the exact. So it does depend on site conditions, and it's 10,000 square feet of any remodeling or reconstruction of the site. So it could be their driveway or just anything in particular, a garage, those kinds of things, that adds up to 10,000 square feet. So it is difficult to say. So I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember. Okay, looks like we're ready to vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, we're on to item 8.1, the Ending Homelessness Annual Report, and we have a staff presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. I'm Jackie Morales-Ferran, the Director of the Housing Department, and joining me today is Reagan Henninger, who's the Deputy Director of the Housing Department, and Kelly Hemphill, who is the Division Manager of the Homeless Response Team. Today, we will be presenting the Housing Department's last Ending Homelessness Annual Report. The Housing Department has been the primary driver of both policy and programs that are designed to respond to homelessness in our city. Today's report focuses solely on the Housing Department's accomplishments. When I started at the Housing Department 15 years ago, the Housing Department employed 5 people on the homeless response team, and we had a little over a $2 million budget. Today, we have 12 members on the team, and last fiscal year, we managed over $43 million of funding. When I started, the team did everything with a few key partners. Today, we are working with over 40 partners to implement a robust response. Over the past 10 years, we have designed and funded direct service programs such as outreach and mobile services, developed legislation such as our local safe parking ordinance and the temporary incidental shelter ordinance, which allows overnight shelters in places of worship, and supported the development of AB 2176 that started the emergency interim housing movement. We also funded the first permanent supportive housing development in San Jose. The Housing Department also took the lead in responding to our most vulnerable residents during the 2019 Coyote Creek flood, which included housed and unhoused residents. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, our response included opening 2 shelters, expanding our motel program and our prevention programs, starting an eviction prevention program, acquiring our first hotel under the Home Key program, and expanding the interim shelter sites. And this year, we led the development of the temporary evacuation sites as part of the city's winter storm response. And we achieved this while continuing our everyday work. Next year, the homelessness report will be comprehensive as it will provide information on all of the city's efforts in responding to the homelessness crisis. Building on the work of the Housing Department, more city departments are engaged as the administration works to scale our response. For example, the Housing Department created and established a legal and humane response to abatements. Today, PRNS oversees the abatement program, and they have expanded our efforts by including trash services to encampments. The Housing Department created the Bridge Housing Communities, led by a staff of 1 and augmented on an as-needed basis. The work included site identification, public outreach, procurement, and overseeing the development of 60 sleeping cabins and the management of the sites. Today, the Housing Department is focused on funding and overseeing the management and services for our interim sites. Now, the City Manager's Office leads a citywide team that is working together to complete the remaining tasks and to work on interim solutions. For example, we have over 34 staff people working on designing and implementing a new interim solution. And finally, the City Manager's Office is leading the effort to develop a comprehensive citywide local implementation plan that scales our approach and response to meet the demands of both our unhoused and housed residents. Next year's annual report will include all of our citywide efforts, the costs, and our performance metrics for these programs. With that, I will turn it over to Reagan for our final report.
Actually, turning it over to Kelly.
Good afternoon. My name is Kelly Hemphill, Division Manager in the Housing Department. All right. The 2022 homeless census counted 6,650 individuals experiencing homelessness in San Jose. 75% were counted as unsheltered, which means nearly 5,000 San Jose residents live outside on our streets, in encampments, in parks, in vehicles. Homelessness is not just a crisis in San Jose and Santa Clara County, but across the entire nation, largely due to the lack of affordable permanent housing. The 5-year community plan to end homelessness from 2020 to 2025 is a regional coordinated response to ending homelessness in Santa Clara County. Our comprehensive response ensures that homelessness is prevented when possible, or if it can't be prevented, it is a rare, brief, and non-recurring experience. We identified 3 strategies in the plan focused on policy change, expanding housing programs, and enhancing services to those living outside. In order to address homelessness in our community, we recognize that we must continue pushing on all elements in our community plan, from preventing homelessness to creating more permanent housing to addressing the immediate needs of unsheltered individuals. The annual report focuses on progress through July 2022, but there have been some updates since then. Between January 2020 and December 2022, 3 years into the 5-year plan, we have made significant progress on our goals. 9,645 individuals have been housed. 2022 had the highest rate with over 3,500 people housed. 84% of those housed were affiliated with San Jose. This means the people housed either lived in San Jose prior to becoming homeless, they work in San Jose, their kids go to school in San Jose, or they spend most of their time in San Jose. People from all jurisdictions in the county were served, but the vast majority were connected to San Jose. There are many pathways to permanent housing. The 9,645 people who were housed reflect multiple pathways. Some moved into housing with the assistance of a rapid rehousing program. Some received assistance in an interim shelter program and then moved to permanent housing. Some reunited and moved back in with family. All of them received assistance from the supportive housing system. 15,124 people were supported in countywide interim shelter programs since 2020. We've increased the temporary housing capacity by 15% since 2020, and there are another 384 temporary housing units in the pipeline. For all temporary housing programs, we want to understand where they will go when they exit the shelter and we track exit destinations. Positive temporary housing outcomes are strongly linked to connections to permanent housing programs. Interim housing programs designed to support people who are awaiting completion of their housing unit or searching for a unit in which to use their housing voucher have the highest rates of exits to permanent housing. We must continue to increase the capacity of permanent housing programs if we want to increase positive outcomes for shelter participants. We have significantly narrowed the gap between inflow and housing placements. When we began the work outlined in the community plan, for every one household moving into permanent housing, another 2 to 3 became homeless. We've narrowed this gap by both increasing the number of housing placements annually and reducing the number of people experiencing homelessness for the first time. In 2022, for every household moving to permanent housing, another 1.7 households became homeless for the first time. We must continue to work on both increasing the capacity of our supportive housing system to assist more people in moving out of homelessness and prevent more households from experiencing homelessness for the first time. Collectively, our region develops an array of annual performance outcomes. Exits to permanent housing are the most impactful outcomes, and they are incorporated into city-funded contracts. The system-wide performance outcomes you see on this slide were developed for fiscal year 21-22 and are updated each year through a continuum of care work group. The city's housing department prioritizes permanent housing programs to address the homeless crisis, since the single greatest systemic cause of homelessness is the lack of permanent affordable housing. Housing solutions include temporary and permanent opportunities to serve individuals and families experiencing homelessness. Approximately 2,600 individuals were placed in a housing opportunity in San Jose in fiscal year 21-22. San Jose is known for its affluence and high cost of living. Unfortunately, people in San Jose are falling into homelessness faster than we can house them. During the pandemic, we focused on constructing emergency interim housing or prefabricated modular communities, which we can build and launch much quicker than affordable housing complexes. We are also buying underused hotels through funds from the state to eventually redevelop and turn into deeply affordable housing for individuals experiencing homelessness. The city funded 2 prevention programs. Combined, 98% of participants maintained their housing as a result of the financial assistance and individualized support. While there's not a COC benchmark, the regional homelessness prevention system sets the goal at 85%, so we are exceeding that outcome. Combined, the 3 rapid rehousing programs did not meet the 80% countywide benchmark of exits to permanent housing. There were several reasons for this, including staff vacancies and the directive to accept referrals straight out of a targeted encampment, which proved to be a challenging population to maintain housing. That's unique, but it happened. The report recognizes 7 city-funded interim housing programs or interim shelter programs, all of which operate as shelters. Combined, they exceeded the system-wide performance benchmark that was set at 30% would exit to permanent housing. This was largely due to the programs being very service-rich. And lastly, the city invested almost $9 million in the development of 735 permanent housing units in fiscal year 21-22. System-wide, the outcome came very close to the benchmark that was set at 98% would maintain permanent housing. Because 3/4 of the homeless population live outside in San Jose, bringing services to them is critical to connect them to the region's system of care, including direct access to housing programs. Crisis interventions provided essential basic needs services to unsheltered individuals and families. Programs included outreach and engagement, enhanced basic needs services in encampments, mobile showers and laundry, motel stays, and emergency shelter. As a city initiative roadmap, I will focus on homeless outreach for this slide. The city funded 4 outreach programs in fiscal year 21-22. Combined, 28% of participants enrolled in outreach exited to permanent housing. Due to the design of a couple of the city-funded outreach programs, as well as funding challenges overall, they did not meet the 38% countywide benchmark of exits to permanent housing. The SOAR model, proactive engagement in targeted areas, is more effective and outcome-driven, is a more effective outcome-driven model. Reactive outreach, such as pre-abatement outreach or responding to complaints to the Homeless Concerns Hotline, results in minimal engagement, which makes it difficult to build relationships. Trust and relationship building are the foundations of successful outreach. So I want to reiterate what Jackie was saying. This homelessness annual report covers how the housing department spent $36 million on programs serving individuals and families experiencing homelessness. It is the housing department's annual report on homelessness. And I'll turn it back over to Jackie.
Thank you, Kelly. I want to acknowledge and thank, this is the part where I get to say thank you. So I want to acknowledge and thank Reagan for her leadership and support, and Kelly for her leadership in managing the homeless response team. Collectively, we have over 120 years of experience, amongst all of us, implementing and managing homelessness programs in the housing department. Members of our team have either experienced homelessness or have had a relative that is or was homeless. I want to give a big shout out to Greg, Vanessa, Alejandra, Nate, Marcel, Stephanie, Ryan, Nosheen, Marcus, and Adriana. You are all amazing. I also want to acknowledge that we can't do this alone. In San Jose, we work in collaboration with the county, Destination Home, the Housing Authority, our nonprofit partners, and people with lived experience to implement the plan to end homelessness. We have asked you so many times, again and again, can you do more? And every time you've said yes, so thank you. And finally, I was reminded again this week that we are not alone in trying to solve the homeless crisis. In 2014, it was reported in the Mercury News that San Jose had the largest encampment in the nation, the Jungle, which had close to 250 people. This week, I read in the New York Times that Phoenix will close the largest encampment in the country, the Zone, with 900 to 1,000 people. Homelessness is a crisis in every major Western city, including San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, Houston, Austin, Denver, Portland, and Phoenix. We are not alone. What the research and best practice has documented over and over again is that ending our homelessness crisis requires us to fund and develop affordable housing and to fund a robust safety net system, which includes medical care, mental health care, and treatment programs. So thank you again for allowing me to lead this work. And with that, we are open for questions.
Thank you, Jackie and team. Appreciate the comprehensive report. I actually just took a walking tour of the Zone 2 weeks ago in Phoenix. It was something else. Appreciate the report and especially the benchmark data. I think it's really helpful to understand how different strategies are performing vis-a-vis the benchmarks that we've set. And I will echo the thanks to all of our incredible partners and the city team doing this important work. Why don't we turn to public comment?
Paul, followed by Blair.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I am glad this housing director is gone. Good riddance. Get out of here. We don't need you. People have died as a result of your failures and your inadequacies. But I will say this, you have fulfilled your purpose.
Blair, followed by Native American Advocate. Please keep comments addressed to the topic, not to the people.
And to the entire body.
Yes.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I guess I wanted to thank, just a thank you for years of service from Jackie, who's worked on these issues, and I think has offered an interesting direction and has, of course, failed sometimes. And I think she's more than willing to be admitted to that and will want to help whoever's next to better improve, you know, what we didn't do well at this time. And that's what's kind of nice about Jackie. So good luck in our efforts to do that and how we can do that in our future. And it's my feeling that, a really important goal for me lately is I've been mentioning how I work with the broadband issues, you know, that I think there's a way to bring all the neighborhoods together to kind of look at where broadband fits. And the same can apply to encampment issues. I think San Jose City government has a wide range of places for city-sponsored encampment sites, for RV-safe parking sites. And then you get a lot of NIMBY people, a lot of people saying, no, we don't want it in our neighborhood. Let's bring all those people of different neighborhoods together, which I think you're kind of trying to do, and let just conversation happen and diagrams and maps present themselves to show what choices can be at this time. And together, I think we can formulate different places together. And that can be acceptable to ourselves. We can negotiate and work that out. Good luck in those efforts to do that. And it was mentioned the concepts of communication. Really good luck in doing that. And trust, communication, that's the important stuff right now. And homelessness is not a crime. And think of San Diego too and all this good work. A brother in the end. Thanks.
Native American Advocate. Native American Advocate.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, great. Well, I'm not sure if I'm being, yes, hi, this is Christopher. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Christopher West, and I work as a Native American advocate. I've been doing this for quite some time. I worked with Gail Osmer as well. She was unavailable to make the meeting. However, I walk a mile in the shoes of the homeless community to see exactly what resources are working and what resources don't work. And I found that San Jose is doing a great job. So I just want to say kudos to you guys. However, there was a situation that happened at an encampment called the Shells recently, where they had the city come through and do a cleanup. It wasn't an abatement, it was a cleanup. The property wasn't, the property that was confiscated was destroyed, not stored, even though on the post that they received for the cleanup said that the property would be stored. So that kind of bothers me. And also the rapid rehousing program. There was a part of the rapid rehousing program where the client would live in the apartment for a year, and every so often, you know, the amount that they would have to pay would jump up 25%, then 50, then 75, then they're paying the full amount. My question is, you know, in forethought, or looking at it, you know, from the experience of somebody who's come off the street, they don't have the adequate funds to pay for their rent in the first place, and to pay for housing. What would make you guys think that they'd be able to pay in the future? So that really doesn't work. But other than that, I just wanted to let you guys know I'm here and I'm boots on the ground. Thank you for letting me share.
Back to the council.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Batra.
Thank you very much for the detailed report. Considering that this report covers a period of the peak of the pandemic. So all the different things you had to attend to, interim housing, permanent housing, coming up with the new plans, that's an amazing piece of work. Okay? Thank you very much for that, and to your partners. I do have a couple of questions. The first one is the money which you have been able to get and use it, was most of it or some of it one-time monies which you got from the different plans, or this was all the source of money which is going to be available to you for future programs?
Thank you, Councilmember Batra. Our ongoing sources of money are largely what we call federal entitlement funds. Those are funds we get from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And those are the alphabet soup of CDBG, ESG, Home, HOPWA. So you can see that on attachment C of the staff report, our funding sources. The one-time funds are the Homeless Housing and Assistance Program, the HAP money from the state, which is approximately $29 million. That has largely funded things like our emergency interim housing operations and construction. It also funds our homelessness prevention system. That's one-time money, and one-time money is very challenging when you're trying to scale a program and you can't rely on a funding source beyond 1 year. It's very hard for nonprofits to scale a program to meet the need when we're using one-time funds. And then local sources like our Housing Authority Litigation Award, that is also one time. Housing Trust Fund is a local revenue funding source that is, it is ongoing, but the amount we have can fluctuate. And then Measure E is ongoing, but again, it can fluctuate based on the real estate market.
Thank you. When you show, especially for affordable homes, the cost or the money which you had to provide from the city, can you have another column in the report is it possible to get the data which shows the total cost borne by the taxpayers from different sources? Because it will help people understand what is it really taking to make that house, affordable home available? Because otherwise it can give an impression, like in this report, for $8 million I get this many homes. The total cost to calculate what it is going to be to get the affordable homes for everybody, it may be understating it. So as a result, it won't change anything about your operation, but it will just help the policymakers to understand how much money we really have to bring to the table to solve this problem. So is that something doable, collectible?
Councilman, let me just clarify what we're
Sure.
showing. So there are two tables that shows funding. So one of the table line items shows city funding, and that line item says we have committed $156 million of city funds in all of these developments. What we're showing you of the close to $9 million is the amount we spent this past fiscal year. So not all the draws are happening at the same time. So the total investment on the city side is $156 million, of which we drew down $9 million at that last fiscal year. We can certainly add a total cost column and then additional public revenues or sources of funding. I guess that would be it.
So 156 is committed from the city, but then there are going to be additional state and and the tax credits, which the project will use to actually build the thing, right?
Correct. There's going to be state tax credit funding and also county funding, most likely, in these developments as well.
So I was asking, is it possible to collect that piece of the information and show it with the project? Because that really tells us the total cost of the project.
Well, it doesn't show us the total cost of the project. So we would do the total cost of the project, the amount that is getting financed through tax credits, which is the question you're asking. But I just want to remind you that for many of these projects, the rents are actually paying back a portion of that funding. So it isn't all being 100% subsidized.
So whatever is the taxpayer funding, which is going to stay with the project, that's because
Yes,
that's the burden.
We can include that. And I was merely trying to clarify that it wasn't just 9 million.
No, that's fine. I do appreciate 9 million doesn't buy us that much, but 156 million is fine. But it's the other part, which is from the tax credits and others, to give us a feel for how much money we really need to bring to the table to solve this problem, extremely difficult problem we have on our hands to do it. Okay, all right. And the last piece of the question, which is probably the whole purpose of the report, you have the homelessness ending 2025. With the current policies, current funding available, are we on the path to achieving that in victory in 2025?
Councilmember, the goals in our community plan to end homelessness are all geared towards, I would say, one primary goal, and that is ensuring that homelessness is rare in our community. Second, if someone does become homeless, that it is brief, meaning they don't languish on our streets or in shelters without a permanent home. And thirdly, that homelessness is non-reoccurring for individuals, so that you don't have people get into housing and then are housing unstable and fall back into homelessness. So that is what our community plan is all geared towards. But we are quite realistic about people will always fall into homelessness if we don't dedicate the resources and the policies to end homelessness. So really the community plan is geared towards those three things: making homelessness rare, brief, non-reoccurring. And then I would say, finally, in our slides, we did provide an update on where we are on those three primary metrics for our community plan: reducing the inflow, people falling into homelessness, doubling our shelter beds, and permanently housing 25,000 people.
Yeah, so I really appreciate that the work plan and the report and the updated numbers. What I was trying to drive towards is that with the current policies in place, the current sources of funding, and your plan, are we on track to have the 2025, we can declare victory, that we have gotten to the point where it's a rare homelessness or a short homelessness? Or do we need some major modifications to our policies or update our financing to get there?
I would say no for a couple of reasons, and actually they relate back to my opening remarks. One is Measure A is going away, and so the commitment to continue to fund permanent supportive housing is going to be challenging as we go forward. So we have to continue to fund affordable housing if we want to end homelessness. Secondly, I would also say we have the challenges with our safety net system and ensuring that we have enough support and services for people so that they just don't drop out. And so while that work is led by the county, certainly the city, I think, has an opportunity to have more and deeper conversation with the county on how we how we potentially can partner and extend additional services on the city side. But those are two big needed requirements, and it has to happen on all levels of government. We have to have the federal government has to do more for affordable housing. The state has to do more for affordable housing, and we have to continue our commitment to affordable housing.
Thank you. And my time is up, so I'm going to make a motion to accept your report and would request having or instruction, whatever, in the future reports to show us the total cost, which we talked about other element, and any changes you want in the policies to be brought about as a recommendation piece in financing policies or whatever. So as a final piece to be the recommendations so that we can really act on it and appreciate all the effort which you have put in there.
Oh, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Staff just want to make sure you feel that the motion is clear and achievable. Are you comfortable with it?
My understanding, and I'll also look to Omar, because the city manager's office will have a greater role in a more comprehensive report, that we could take it as an opportunity to highlight, I would say, any kind of key potential policy changes and modifications to programs, especially as we see performance, right?
Right.
We're seeing changes in performance. We could make the report clearer on ways we could modify what we're doing in order to achieve better performance.
Okay. So there was that. I heard two pieces in the motion. I just want to make sure.
And the funding source. We can absolutely do that.
And more comprehensive view of all the the total costs.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you
that
very
was
much
actually
for
the
all
easy part.
That's the easy one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very
the
much for all
interpretation
you do.
and analysis is always harder. Okay.
Okay.
Great. So we have a motion and a second. Let's go to Vice Mayor Kameh.
Thank you. I just want to say that in my brief time here on council, I've learned so much, and I continue to learn in this area of housing. So I want to say thank you, Jackie, so much for your work and your leadership. It's not an easy place to be. And certainly I believe in what you said in terms of it's going to take all of us. It really is. I mean, this is such a huge, enormous challenge. But I think that as a community, we will rise to the challenge, however that may be. One of the things that I'm concerned about is, now that the county Measure A funds, I didn't think they're going to run out so fast, but they have. They've all been allocated. So, I'm just concerned about, well, what is that going to do for our portion as, we move forward, and how much will we need to be able to offset some of those dollars that I thought they were going to last a little bit longer, and they have not. So I'm curious in terms of where could we look to augment funds? Is it Measure E? Is it the asking for more federal dollars? Is it the state? I mean, what are some of the things we could do? Because it was pretty sizable. So I'm concerned about that, and I'm just wondering where are we going to go?
Sure. There's like a few additional investments that the county is going to be able to make, but they're going to be much smaller for San Jose because they met the goal in developing permanent supportive housing in San Jose. So what I'd say is that we have a couple of opportunities. So one is, I think it's really important, and the city council voted to support setting aside 45% of our funding for extremely low-income people. Because really a portion of affordable housing is really creating that safety net of ensuring we have enough low-cost housing in our community that people can actually afford to live here and are not subject to rent increases that might result in them having to be evicted because they can't afford rent anymore. And so just the fact the city is funding extremely low-income housing, which we can continue to do without Measure A, is important, and we have to do. The one last point I'll make on that is the majority of our funding that we did early on, because we had a goal to build 10,000 units, the city did that by building the highest income ranges of affordable housing. So we did it all at 60% versus 30%. So we have a lot of that higher, lower income portion, and that's what we're trying to make up now. And then secondly, I think we have to have conversations with the county regarding their ability to, if the city did all of the construction subsidy for a permanent supportive housing unit, would they pay for the operating subsidy? So one part of the partnership that you don't see in this report necessarily is that when we co-develop, or even when we don't, they have been paying the ongoing costs for the supportive services, which are somewhere between $10,000 and $12,000 per unit. They pick that up, which allows us to do the supportive part of permanent supportive housing. So we need to start having those conversations with them now regarding can they continue to fund the services piece, which would allow the city to continue our investments in permanent supportive housing. And then finally, I would say there is through MTC, BAFA, which is the Bay Area Finance Housing Authority, I was looking at putting on the ballot an initiative that will bring more affordable housing dollars to our community. It could bring up to $1 billion for the city of San Jose and $1 billion to the county. That's a tremendous opportunity for us to continue this work.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vice Mayor. I would just echo that I think this regional housing measure is a very significant opportunity, and it does look likely to move forward. I think it will be reliant on the threshold being lowered, which will be a statewide ballot measure that will also likely be on the ballot. Okay, let's go to Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. And I wanted to share my thanks to the housing staff for putting together this very robust report. And of course, I want to thank Jackie, who I am sad to see leaving the city shortly. This report provides an opportunity to, what I believe, appreciate the evidence-based housing first approach that the city has developed over the last several years. And it's great to see our interim housing efforts all beat the county's continuum of care benchmarks for exits into permanent supportive housing. So really congratulations on that effort. I think this really emphasizes the importance of maintaining a full spectrum of solutions as we approach this crisis. And if we haven't made those investments in permanent supportive housing that we did, we would be looking at the results of these interim housing centers in a very different perspective. And I also think it's important to call out that what we're trying to do is end homelessness. And in order to do that, we really have to address the root cause of what causes homelessness, which isn't laziness. It's, of course, the affordability crisis. You know, people can become homeless from a medical bill, from a car note, or really just the failing housing market that really everybody's being squeezed upon. And it's vital that we don't go for, I would say, easy short-term solutions that may make, you know, some residents of my district happy, but, you know, at the end of the day, we got to pursue the overall goal, which I believe the best way to do that is the holistic solutions that are providing available evidence points, just like we've been doing, featured in this last report. Turning to the rest of the report, I do have questions on our plans for street outreach. Can you talk in more detail about what you're doing to address shortcomings in targeted and citywide outreach as you are preparing to procure new contracts this summer?
Okay, I'm just going to start, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, who knows way more about outreach, because I do, you know, I've always noticed that our citywide team has underperformed in the metric. And, you know, we haven't been as frank as we need to be regarding setting them up to achieve an impossible goal. And so the team is small, and it is literally responding to every abatement that it can, every call that we get, and Kelly can tell us the number of abatements or calls, just to give you a sense of scale. And so it is really unreasonable for the city to have expected that they could achieve this benchmark, because the ability to achieve the benchmark is all about having consistent interactions with the same people. But because they're running around, responding to all the phone calls and responding to the abatements, they don't really have the opportunity to do the ongoing connection that is required in order to move somebody into a permanent housing site or even into a interim facility. And so we really need to rethink what they're able to do and come back to you with, if what you want is that citywide team to have better results, we actually need a more robust citywide team. And with that, I'll turn it back to Kelly to add more detail.
Thank you so much for the question. This is actually a really exciting time for my team. We are completely redesigning outreach, much like we're completely redesigning our interim shelter programming and operations. And we'll be going out to competitively procure both outreach and our interim shelter this summer. And we will be getting into new contracts beginning in January of 2024. So it's a very huge opportunity, like Jackie was saying, especially with outreach, with the 6,500 calls that we get every year and the 5-person team responding to those calls. The relationships are just, they're non-existent. They're just reacting and offering water and hygiene items and offer of shelter, but that relationship is just not, it's not building. And so we'd like to, we recognize that those relationships are what are impactful for people in accepting and being receptive to what's being offered, and that's the way we want to go. So we're going to be focused on the more proactive and engagement type outreach.
I really appreciate that. I think the outreach is key because obviously due to the crisis, there's encampments in every district, in every neighborhood, and it'll be good to work with individuals who are responsive and can go out there and if there's issues, you know, obviously we're not criminalizing homelessness, but sometimes there are issues, and so we could have, you know, people who understand, you know, the homeless condition go out and reach and speak to these people. So I really appreciate that. Another question, in conducting the 2022 homelessness census, was there a geographic breakdown on, I guess, where the unsheltered homeless population was staying by district?
There was, however, how do I say this nicely? We weren't totally relying on the data as being as accurate as we have in the past. So we're going to take the 2023 homeless census and survey a little bit more seriously. I think we just weren't, the data from the 2022 was not as reliable. But we did have it. We will have it again for the 2023, and the full report should be coming out within the next couple months.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. I think that'll help us. If we are able to do that breakdown, I think that'll help us as policymakers identify where. Oh, sorry.
I just want to add a little color to
Sure.
what she was carefully trying to state. There were some challenges with the technology. They used new technology last year in order to do the count, and there were challenges with the technology, and therefore that's why we're not comfortable where the actual location piece. We're comfortable with the counting, but we're not comfortable with the technology they use to locate where that person was. So that's what she's referring to.
Okay, yeah, and the reason why I ask is obviously, you know, districts like 3 or 7, I'm sure, have a lot of homeless counts, so that may allow us, as we make decisions as a city, how we allocate resources to make sure that one district isn't housing a majority of it, and if they are, that they get more resources or something like that. I just want to make sure things are assigned in a way that actually help the majority hit populated districts. And then 3, finally, as we are looking into the various programs that we do, what measures are taken into consideration for like quality of life in surrounding neighborhoods. I understand, no, there's going to be individuals who are going to oppose every safe parking program we do or every affordable housing program or something like that. But what sort of metrics are we looking into for quality of life as we identify our strategy?
Just clarifying question, quality of life for the person
For the residents as
experiencing
well in the
homelessness
neighborhoods.
Or the housed residents?
I guess both, but I just want to make sure that, like, if we do see, I'm sure that everybody are getting these, complaints in their districts. What sort of metrics are we using as we're making decisions to make sure that, like, all right, there's too many calls on this certain issue, so we have to enact this certain strategy or something like that. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully that does.
Yeah, it does. Thank you for clarifying. Say that in the fall of last year, we brought forward a report to council on our interim housing, for example, and we had some data on the calls for service. The data from fire and police calls, the data indicated that there was not when an interim housing site goes into a neighborhood, the data said that there is not a increased calls for service for the site. But we do look at data like that for our programs that operate. We look at that kind of data for our safe parking programs as well. Typically we have a community advisory committee for interim housing and safe parking sites, and even our overnight warming locations where we have fire, PD, Beautify, San Jose as part of the conversations in addressing any concerns or issues that might pop up.
Okay, yeah, and just to elaborate, obviously I support affordable housing, I support EIHs, I support permanent supportive housing. I just want to make sure, because we have to juggle both the concerns of our residents, and they come out with emails and calls. So what sort of mechanisms there are just to balance it and make sure that one neighborhood isn't carrying more burden and that things are being spread out and stuff like that. But I appreciate your answers, and thank you so much for the report.
Thanks, Councilmember. Councilmember Dewan.
Thank you, Mayor. Jackie, thank you for the incredible work that you put in all these years. On the other hand, I'm very happy for you in the sense that you get to do things that you haven't had the opportunity to do because you put in so many hours trying to make this with passion about the housing issues. I want to say thank you for that. On slide number 4, I'd just like to get a little clarification, the progress on the community plan. All the numbers up here are showing, it's not just for San Jose. I would imagine it's county-wide. Am I correct on that?
That's right.
Yes, and the second question I have for you is, I've talked to a lot of unhoused residents out there on Coyote Creek, and some of the activists as well. And I know that we have given or granted a lot of money to a nonprofit organization to give support to our unhoused residents. And majority of the people that out there in the Coyote Creek have told me that they are the end user and they haven't got the services that was written and promised. What type of matrix do you use to oversee the nonprofit organization, making sure that from A through Z, at the end result, to our unhoused residents, they are given all the support and services that from the nonprofit organization?
Thank you. So, we just had a meeting with the advocates, and we had one specific advocate who said during the calls, and I quote, "I work at the area all the time. I speak to people all the time. No one has heard anything. Housing department and your partners are doing nothing because I've talked to the people and I know." And so the housing department staff responded, and one of the strategies we're using for this particular site is we have a name list of people who live in the area, and I believe it was over 160 names of people that have been contacted and are on the list that are part and will be impacted by the Water District project. And so how we're going to hold the city and our partners responsible is we have this list of 160 people, actual names. They go into our HMIS system, which is our reporting system, and we can literally track where they go and how they touch the system. So we have names, and we're able to follow people through the system because we actually do know who they are. So have we, the challenge of doing this work is while we've connected with 160 plus people, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has been willing or able or been available to talk to our outreach workers. But I do think it is really important to acknowledge that our partners have been out there, they have been doing the work, and we do have the evidence to demonstrate that we know who the people are.
Thank you. And I know that with the project of cleaning up, or at least shoring up the Coyote Creek, yes, there's a lot of collaboration and effort, but prior to the projects, there was a lot of unhoused residents that I've personally spoken to that did not get the services that they need. And I don't see, is there a metric that you, or at least spreadsheets, and hold the responsibility to our partners, the nonprofit organization whom get millions of dollars, to do exactly what they said?
So I think one of the things I tried to acknowledge was that the citywide outreach team, which I believe is a team of 5 people, has a task that we have set them up to fail because they don't have enough access to resources and they don't have enough time and an ability to properly continue the work that we need in order to get people out of the creeks and into a shelter, into housing. So often what they are doing is the first response. They are responding because we've received a call, and so they're telling the person, we've received a call, we're getting complaints, we need you to think about your other options. They might provide options, but it doesn't necessarily mean that a shelter bed is available that night for them to go anywhere. And so we have found we are more successful when we've done coordinated approaches that we've done either, as you've seen for the airport site, where we had actual housing provided with the plan. The work that we're doing here with the Water District, where the Water District is contributing to provide some housing resources. And then even in the downtown, where we have a much more robust team that is able to work consistently with the people who live there. So I would say we don't have, those teams are not resourced for success. And so they're not able to achieve that. And so they're not able to contact every single person because it is literally a 5-member team. And I would also add, we constantly redeploy them to address whatever our current crisis is. So when we were doing the Guadalupe, we redeployed them there. And so again, I would say we as a city are not supporting them to be successful. And so hence we're not getting the results we need.
Thank you. I thought I do understand that we have a small staff, but that's why we have a partnership with a lot of these nonprofit organizations that have more resources and that be able to come out there and help us?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not our staff that's going out into the creeks. It is literally 5 outreach workers that are responding to every city call when they can and to abatements. And so that's one of the reasons why we are redoing how we're using those outreach teams, and Beautify is also rethinking how they use our outreach teams and instead are thinking about a different model. Because again, we would agree with you, council member, that the model we currently have is not successful.
Thank you, Jackie. That's all I have.
Great, thanks, Councilmember. Okay, let's vote.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you again to staff for the very comprehensive report. We are on to land use consent. There's no presentations. Let's go to public comment.
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman. I was waiting for open forum. Sorry.
Back to council.
Thank you. Not seeing any hands. Do we have a motion on item 10.1?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Let's vote.
Okay, I'm waiting on Cohen and Batra. And Batra's not here. So motion passes 10-0 with Batra absent.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to item 10.2. This is a plan development permit for a property located at 2400 Ringwood Ave and 1849 Fortune Drive. We do have a staff presentation and a group memo on the agenda. Let's jump in.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Chris Burton, Director of Planning, Building, Code Enforcement. I'm joined today by Deputy Director Robert Manford, David Kiana, Principal Planner for CEQA, and Tina Garg, who's also on our CEQA team, here to talk about the project. The project before us today is a unique economic development project that's a little different from what we've done in the past. It's a combination of both a data center and a new industrial manufacturing building in North San Jose. So I'll go through the regulars on a land use item, but I just want to touch on a couple of items that are important with this project. So it is a plan development zoning application, as well as the plan development permit and a vesting tentative map. It includes 136,000 square feet of, as I said, advanced manufacturing space, in addition to 522,000 square feet of data center, as well as a parking structure. What's unique about this is the area does have a general plan designation of transit employment center. That's typically something that we'd anticipate for a more intense commercial use or intense industrial use. It's throughout sort of parts of North San Jose and down in Edenvale. What's unique about this project, obviously data centers don't necessarily generate the types of employment that we would anticipate in this general plan land use designation. And so we're using this project to look into a different approach, because we know that the sort of more intense, more office-like commercial market isn't currently interested in this location. So it is a thriving manufacturing center for the city. It represents a vast number of diverse jobs that represent a wide set of skills. So as a result, we took the opportunity to look at preserving manufacturing capacity in the city and actually producing net new manufacturing space, something that nobody is out there building currently, and combining that with the data center use so that as a combination it would work as an individual project. So as typically, we did the analysis against the general plan. That's how we found general plan consistency, in addition to sort of looking for that opportunity to preserve industrial capacity throughout the city. We measured the project against the municipal code and Title 20, as well as the citywide design guidelines, our public outreach policy, and CEQA. So for environmental review, this again is a slightly unique project in that the California Energy Commission was the lead agency for the CEQA component. Because data centers have a significant power component, the CEC takes the lead on these projects. They completed a final environmental impact report that was done on April 12th. It identified potential impacts to air quality, biological resources, cultural and tribal resources, geology and soils, greenhouse gas emissions, hazards and hazardous materials, noise, and transportation. These impacts would be reduced to less than significant levels with the implementation of identified mitigation measures. The FEIR determined that there were no significant or unavoidable impacts due to the implementation of the project. And the mitigation measures are included in the mitigation monitoring report, as you would typically see with a project of this type. So as a result, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt a resolution certifying the environmental impact report, approving the ordinance to rezone the property, as well as a resolution approving, subject to conditions, a vesting tentative map and a planned development permit to allow for the project. So that is all we have on the staff side. I believe the applicant does have a representative here. It's Miles Kirsten, who's the Director of Development for STAC.
And is your mic on? Okay, great. And then you have slides. It looks like they're up.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Mahan, Councilmember Cohen, and City Council members. My name is Miles Kirsten, Director of Development with STAC Infrastructure. Big thanks to Director Burton and staff for their help with this project starting in early 2021. And a big thanks to Councilmember Cohen, who we first met in July of 2021 and has provided great guidance up until this point. Thank you so much. STAC Infrastructure. STAC is one of the largest data center operators in the world. We develop and operate in major markets such as Northern Virginia, Dallas-Fort Worth, San Jose, as well as internationally. In North San Jose, we have 2 projects totaling about 400,000 square feet. This represents significant private investment. And this is 100% powered by renewable energy with LEED Gold certifications. Our next investment in North San Jose, which we believe is one of the world's most important technology markets, is an advanced manufacturing facility, 2 data centers, and a 91 megawatt backup generating facility. I'd like to highlight a few of the project benefits. During the 3-year construction process, we anticipate generating a little over 700 union jobs. And once the project is complete, we conservatively anticipate around 200 permanent jobs being created. We are in conformance and are consistent with general plan policies, municipal code, economic development goals, and so on. Off-site improvements include significant private investments into pedestrian networks, traffic calming measures, as well as a Class 4 protected bike lane. In partnership with Public Works, we look forward to expanding that scope to perhaps look to see if we can integrate some green infrastructure that you were hearing about earlier this evening, using our basis of the Class 4 as our commitment to the city. Additionally, through our TDM measures, this project was proposed before the parking requirements were eliminated. We look forward to reducing our already 32% reduced parking requirement and potentially recapturing the top floor of our parking garage to increase opportunities for solar as well as enhanced green spaces. We will complete this once the project is stabilized and we can fully assess the parking demand on site. On April 12th, the EIR was approved by the CEC as well as our MMRP. The small power plant exemption was also granted. To highlight a few sustainability measures, STAC is a leader in the market. In addition to replacing 47 trees on site, we will be paying an in lieu fee for the balance of our trees that we are unable to replant. In addition to that, STAC would like to contribute an additional $40,000 towards the District 4 1,000 tree project. Here we see our project located at the corner of Trade Zone and Ringwood, right off Montague Expressway. And here is a more detailed site overview. As a condition of approval, we are also agreeing to complete the vertical construction of the advanced manufacturing facility prior to any certificate of occupancy of any data center. We anticipate commencing construction later this summer and completing our first data center at the end of 2025. I'd like to thank Mayor Mahan and Councilmember Cohen for their continued support and their memorandum and recommendation. We are in complete alignment with that recommendation as well. Thank you so much, and I'm available for any questions.
Great. Thank you so much. Does that complete the staff report as well?
It does.
Great. Thank you. I'm very interested in this project. I appreciate that you're going vertical. I know a lot of data centers traditionally were lower level, and the fact that we're better using the space I think is great. The high-paying jobs, both for construction and permanent jobs, and then of course the commitment to our climate smart plan, 100% renewable power, and the investment in the urban forest, where I know Councilor Cohen has set a very ambitious goal for his district, which I appreciate. And I'll let him walk through the group memo when we come back for council discussion, but thank you for the application and walking us through the project. Tony, do we have public comment?
Concerned citizen?
Yes, thank you. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. You're knocking down 156 trees. And in this era of being climate smart and being environmentally conscious, what this company did is, and it's conspicuous that he left that out, because that was the main point of contention during the planning commission. You guys forgot, I go to every single meeting. And so that was a point of contention there. Also, the amount of cars that are in these parking lots is laughable. Because what you're doing is you're saying, on one sense, with your rhetoric, oh, we're just morally conscious and, about our environment. We need to protect our environment. Well, why is that parking lot loaded with like 600 parking spaces? I mean, this is crazy what you guys are doing, because you're conning the people, you're lying to them. So 156 trees, what this company did is they paid out $320,000. So that's what they're doing. They're doing the same thing that the developers were doing with the allocation of housing within their market rate housing developments. They're just cashing you guys out. That way they don't have to accept the responsibility of instituting those units. So with these trees, they're knocking them all down, and they're just like, yeah, well, we're gonna, put some in or something like that. They're lying. They're flat out lying about it. The amount of cars that ask for a reduction, there needs to be a 50% reduction in the amount of cars that are there, or quit lying to the people. Quit lying about we need to reduce cars on the streets. Quit doing it. It's a joke. It's just a straight up con, okay? And it's proof, because go to the planning commission meeting of last week and it's all there, man. These were topics of discussion. Also, quit putting these items on consent, because they were on the consent.
Back to council.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Cohen?
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank the planning department and everyone from STAC, including Miles and the rest of the team, for all of the partnership that we've had as we started on this project. And for those of you who want to see what their projects look like, they've already built and opened the first data center location right there on Trade Zone. It's a really nice facility, and this will expand and make a very large combined data center and job center there on the corner. I'm excited about repurposing that old Olympus site that has been abandoned for a number of years, so looking forward to the development. I want to thank you for your partnership on trying to mitigate the effects, and we all know that data centers could, if they're not done right, be a big environmental impact, but there are ways now with new technology on cooling and on energy to do it in a more green way. We're all relying, obviously, on having as many data centers as our, an ever-growing number of data centers as we move forward. And I'm looking forward to, obviously, North San Jose being a location for several new ones in the years ahead. So I just want to thank you. You heard Miles say that all of the things in our memo, which we had talked with them about in advance, were voluntary contributions that they were making. I think one of the items also was that rather than wait, as is typical, to provide the $320,000 tree mitigation fee at the end, at the issuance of the occupancy permit, which is scheduled to be 2 years out. They're offering that when their building permit is issued, which is intended to be this summer, that they would front load those fees so the city can begin using them to plant trees as a replacement. And they also will be, about 1/3 of the trees taken out will be replaced with larger sized trees on site. We worked with them as much as possible to try to maximize the preservation of the trees that are there. And then the other piece that was important to me is, we heard about green infrastructure earlier during our stormwater discussion. When we've talked a bit as a council about trying to pilot some of the stormwater infrastructure along our bike lanes, we're going to try to work with the planning department, Public Works, Department of Transportation, to figure out what it would look like to pilot a green bike lane infrastructure along the front of Trade Zone, which is a good long stretch where we can actually see what it's like to have a nice separated bike lane with green infrastructure. They're also rerouting the bike lane around the bus stop so that the bus can pull in and bikes can continue to go without being interrupted by buses coming in and out. So they've done a lot of things to try to improve bicycle and pedestrian safety as part of this project. So anyway, I just want to thank them for their cooperation, and I will move the memo from myself and Mayor Mahan.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, great. And we're on to Councilmember Batra.
Coming from the technical backgrounds of the IBMs and the Intel, I'm very pleased to see another data center coming in our city and with corresponding employment. I have one question about it. Is the data center going to be 100% solar generated power?
It will not. It will be powered by electricity powered from PG&E through their clean energy program.
Through their clean energy program, okay.
We have been looking for additional, based on feedback from the community, looking for additional opportunities to integrate additional solar to the site. And so as we look to recapture the top floor of the parking garage, we thought the weight there, redistributing it for allocation towards vehicles, towards solar panels would be a great trade-off there.
Okay, so there is going to be no solar panels at all, is it?
We have some, we do have some, but it's not enough to power the facility. It's more for offsetting house load, fire life safety, those types of typical building lighting.
Okay, to prevent the brownouts.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, and also for your backup power, is that going to be again PG&E?
This will be through generators. We use Tier 4 generators with clean diesel.
So gas and diesel generators?
Correct, yep.
Okay. I don't know if you have any other options. I think as we are moving away from those gas and diesel stuff, so this one coming as an additional thing, I think, I'm not sure where the ordinances are. I thought we were going away from any of these gas-powered appliances, and you're not going to be regularly using it, but it's still backup, and whether that is consistent with our current ordinances and all, I guess our planning department will take care of it. But you have no other alternative ways of getting the power with the power walls and those kind of storage?
Given the critical nature of operations here and the necessity to maintain 24/7, 365 operations during an outage, that this is the only time the generators would come on. We are currently exploring alternate power solutions for this backup generation, specifically with groups like Bloom Energy. Their application is primarily used for primary energy, so offsetting power load on the front end. But they are also exploring microgrid concepts that we're looking into for future projects.
Yeah, I'll be highly supportive of the project. I would, wherever you want to take it in terms of, I would strongly suggest that exploration of, instead of the backup generators be gas and diesel. an alternative if can be found, cost-effective solutions, because we are moving away from even for the residential, and I think it would be inconsistent with the highly technical company coming here with the highly technical activity. I think it would be not consistent with our image or your image to have the diesel stuff. So that would be my suggestion, and wherever you can incorporate it. Councilmember Cohen, would you like to put something in there as that exploration of, I'm not asking for a commitment, or only a commitment for exploration for a backup to be non-diesel?
After you're done with your comments, I'll comment a bit on the whole power situation there and the solar commitment on the roof that we talked about. I won't accept the change now to the motion, but we'll talk a little. I'll give some context after.
Sure. I'm done. Thank you very much for all.
Great, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Cohen, you had an addition I saw. Go ahead.
Yeah, Councilmember Butcher, you triggered me remembering that I didn't highlight the item about the parking, and I just wanted to mention that too, because we've talked a lot about solar roofs, green roofs, other options here as a council. I have certainly, and we've come to an agreement, and we didn't necessarily outline any kind of timeline for this, but the idea is that once construction's done and the parking garage is no longer needed for construction vehicles and everything else, that the investigation will be done about how much parking is actually needed when the site is operational, and with the hope of converting as much as possible of the top floor into solar and maybe trees, but even if it's fully solar, that would be great. Clearly, we know that data centers are use too much energy to do solar on site for powering, so that's not an option. But I guess you could nod rather than walk back down when I ask you. Your commitment as STAC is that you will be procuring all of this as 100% renewable from 100% renewable sources for whatever you're using on site. That's the commitment we have. So while it can't be generated locally, they have that commitment. But adding some extra solar to put back into the grid once they have the garage available will be a benefit regionally and maybe for some of their local power usage as well. When it comes to backup, we've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of years about the right kind of backup generation at data centers. Given the need to be completely uninterrupted, they have to have a reliable backup source. What's been talked about a lot are these natural gas fuel cells that are out there, but those are purchased, and because of the cost of purchasing them, they end up being the full-time power source for the plant, for the operation. That's the reason why actually we want to move away from those kinds of fuel cell backup. They're too expensive as a backup generator, and they only get used as a full-time, and then you're actually using natural gas in those fuel cells full-time until the time at which we get to hydrogen fuel cells and the technology's ready, and we hope that'll occur. Those will still be expensive and won't necessarily be even as green as solar and other 100% renewable sources. So actually, at this point, diesel generation is a decent backup. We look at the number of usages is fairly low, and therefore the emissions are relatively low, even though we would love to not have that as used at all. At this point, that's the technology that we go with in these data centers. So that's my response to that issue. We'll obviously continue keeping an eye as we move forward on evolving technology, and I appreciate that. I'm sure STAC is looking into on-site battery storage and things at some point when it becomes efficient enough to be able to power their whole facility, but I don't think we're at that point yet where you could have enough batteries on site to power the entire data center in the event of a PG&E outage.
Yeah, thanks for that. That is my understanding as well. I appreciate that summary. That was, I think, helpful. Councilmember Dewan.
Thank you, Mayor. STAC, is your company willing to hire underserved applicants in the city of San Jose? And if so, how are you going to reach out to multiple districts for resident to put in an application?
I personally, in the development realm, am not involved in the operations, but that's something we can absolutely take to our team as a cause and an effort.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Councilmember. Okay. Thank you again. I do just want to recognize, and I know all of our council members do this, but I really appreciate how Councilmember Cohen worked so closely with the applicant and conveyed the values of the district and the city, and worked very collaboratively to find an overall package that works for the applicant and is good for the city. I think it's a good model of how to work with a developer bringing forward a project. And thank you again for the application. I think it's a very exciting project. And Tony, with that, I think we're ready to vote.
Motion passes 10-0 with Torres absent.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. So we are at the end of the agendized items, but before going to open forum, we did have a ceremonial item that was scheduled for 5 p.m., and that was recognizing the Overfelt High School boys soccer team who won the Division II Central Coast Championship. Depending on the willingness of the council, we will either need to reschedule with the soccer team, or if Nora says we can, adjourn and return at 5 p.m. So I would like to hear feedback from council members. I know it is the preference. Go ahead, Councilmember Condelis.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand, we blew through the agenda, which is good for us. Our comments are getting very, very good. But most of these kids, they're from Overfelt High School. Well, all these kids are from Overfelt High School, but most of them have probably never been to City Hall. And so I understand, we got out early technically, but I would urge my colleagues to, go with the option of coming back at 5 p.m. because I know these kids are going to appreciate it. And that's my pitch. And I know Councilmember Ortiz would probably feel the same way, but
and my understanding, thank you, council member, agreed. Understanding from Nora, I just want to confirm, we can adjourn temporarily, return at 5, do the ceremonial, and then take open forum?
Yes. We would actually recess, not
I'm sorry,
adjourn.
recess. Apologies, I used the wrong
Recess,
word.
okay.
Recess temporarily, return at
Yeah.
5. I'd just like to know if we have a quorum willing to do that. Can I just see a show of hands of how many of us would be willing to do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're definitely going to be at quorum. Please don't all bail on me, but we will be recessing until 5 p.m.
Wait. I have my hand raised. Do you mind
Sure.
if I just weigh in for a
Please, go
minute?
ahead, Councilor Floyd. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Is it not possible to hold open forum right now, and then
It's a great
that
point.
may
Are
take
we-
us closer
Yeah,
to
we
the
can.
time that
Okay.
the kids are arriving? Is there no
Okay.
reason we could do
Yeah.
that?
Then I can take items out of order?
Yes.
Okay, then we will, great point. We will, any other pressing comments before we go to open forum? Go ahead,
Question to the city
Councilor.
clerk. I yelled aye as soon as I came out of that door. I don't know if I made it to the vote.
Oh, I didn't hear you. So
Yeah.
I'll just announce that the last vote on 10.2 is unanimous with all 11 voting.
Great, thank you.
I was wondering what that yelling was. Okay. So we will go to open forum and then recess until 5 p.m.
Okay, Alex Eulenberg.
Good afternoon, council members. I spoke at last council meeting regarding the vaccination requirement, and I said, you got to drop it. And you didn't drop it. So to help you with this, I have a draft resolution for you to put on your agenda for next time, where I understand it's on the consent calendar to cancel the COVID emergency. So when you do that, please also cancel the employee COVID-19 vaccination requirement, because it's wrong. And I gave you the reasons in a little letter I sent. It's part of public comment. Basically, it's a violation of an employee's right to religious and medical privacy for an employer to require the disclosure of religious beliefs or medical condition unrelated to the performance of one's work duties in order to avoid undergoing a medical procedure not necessary to ensure safety in the workplace. Understand that the CDC, the California Department of Public Health, no federal or state agency is recommending that you keep unvaccinated people out of the workplace. So there's no reason to do that. It's only discrimination. Discrimination on the basis of medical status, presumed or perceived disability. Look it up. Ask your lawyers, is it okay to discriminate on the basis of a perceived disability? Americans with Disabilities Act, no, you can't. California Unruh Civil Rights Act, no, you can't do that. So drop it now, drop the requirement. Everybody should be able to work at the city of San Jose without having to get a COVID-19 vaccination. It doesn't provide any safety for the other people around, and it's just discrimination. So thanks for listening. I hope to see that dropped next week explicitly.
Thank you.
There you go. All right.
Spencer?
Oh, hello. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to say that was really interesting listening to everybody present and talk about their issues. I had something a little bit out of the box. I'm an economics and sociology student at Foothill College, but I live in San Jose. And I was looking through San Jose's sister cities, and I noticed that we don't have a lot of sister cities, for one. I mean, compared to like Oakland or San Francisco, we have like 6. I just wanted to bring that to your attention and petition you to possibly look at other alternatives or any other cities out there that are interested in any types of cultural exchanges or programs of that sort. Africa would be a pretty great continent to look at countries and cities that would be interested. We don't have any sister cities there. Honestly, that's it. Yield my time. Thank you.
Blair, followed by Paul.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Those are some nice words from the public comment today. Thank you. My feelings, we just had a big Cinco de Mayo celebration again in San Jose, as usual, yearly tradition. You know, it really adds a perspective to, I was really harassed for some reason attending a city council, a Christmas meeting a few weeks ago. I was not allowed into the session at the beginning of the meeting. There could be a number of reasons for that. And I was going to say at the meeting that day that it slipped my mind that as we're at the end of April, San Jose just has a tradition. Its police and its elected officials grow really uptight around Cinco de Mayo, and they get really, you know, they're ready to practice the law to the letter. And, you know, they treated me basically like a communist infiltrator, possibly. I mean, that's certainly the way they work around May Day, around Cinco de Mayo. So, State Assemblyperson Ash Kalra and State Senator Dave Cortese really want to look into how to address, you know, what's been going on with that issue. And it's been the same for years now. And if you guys want to take a stand that we're adults and that we can handle ourselves without turning violent, and we can trust that and learn to take those good steps, really good luck to ourselves in San Jose, how to do that. I think they're on the right track. I shouldn't have to be detained before entering a meeting because it's Cinco de Mayo time. You know, that's the kind of hostility from the police we're asking to avoid and to end, basically. And I hope you guys are practicing as council persons. It is an uptight, nervous time, I do admit. Good luck how we work on this together. Everyone invited to the process. Thank you.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. That was a definite racist act of aggression against the Chicano and Mexicano community, and there's a history of that. Since 1849, when the police department was instituted as a racially, what they were instituted for is to show who's boss, show who's in control, and we will kill citizens
which they determined as non-human, Native Americans and Mexicans. We were second-class citizens then, and that's the way we were treated now. That was a militaristic occupation, is what it was. There was no difference between that and what happens in communist countries. So Blair was correct in that sense. It didn't surprise me, however, though. It did not surprise me that there was that occupation during that holiday, because all that happened is you affirmed what it is that we already know. But all we're saying as a community is don't complain when we respond to it. Just don't complain, because you got it coming, because of what you do. You put guns on the street. You put guns in proximity to Mexicans under the auspices that somehow or another we're an implied threat. So what we're going to do is threaten you with guns, and we're going to threaten to kill you. If you do something out of line, we're going to kill you. And this is what you did to our citizens of our community. And we gave San Jose its an identity. Every single time you say our name, its name, San Jose. It's the language of the Mexican. Secondly is silence is betrayal. And the people that claim Mexican heritage on this council, you've been silent. And that is a betrayal of your own people. You should be disgusted with yourselves.
Back to council. Thank you. Okay, council will recess until 5 p.m.
Hey, Tony, can I update on my item 10.1, which I missed? Can I change it to yes?
When we come back, it can be recessed, so people may have left. So I want to make sure it's like where people are watching. Okay.
Hey, good evening. We're back from our recess. And Tony, could we just take the roll quickly?
Jimenez,
Present.
Torres,
Present.
Cohen,
Here.
Ortiz,
Present.
Davis. Here. Doan,
Present.
Candelas.
Here.
Foley. Here. Batra,
Present.
Kamei,
Here.
Mahan.
Here. Okay. Councilmembers Candelas and Ortiz, if you will join me at the podium, we will recognize and commend the Overfelt High School boys soccer team who won the Division II Central Coast Championship. All right.
Go Lincoln.
No kidding, the kids are getting taller. Holy crap.
Test? Okay, we're on. All right. All right, so today we will be honoring the Overfelt High School soccer team, a group of remarkable young men representing the class of 2022 and 2023. After an incredible season where they went 15, 3, and 4, the team was selected as the number 3 seed to participate in this year's Division II Central Coast Section Championship. In the championship tournament, the team secured victories over Lee High School and Branham High School. Sorry, Pam. The team then faced Westmont High School. In a heroic effort, they secured a 1-1 tie in regulation, followed by a thrilling 2-1 victory in overtime. This win not only secured the team's first outright CCS men's soccer championship in the school's 60-year history, but also represented a triumph of determination, teamwork, and perseverance. However, this achievement is even more impressive considering the challenges that students and student athletes at Overfelt and overall in the east side of San Jose face daily. Many of these athletes must balance demanding academic schedules and work part-time jobs after practice and during weekends to support their families. The limited financial resources some of these athletes and their families face make it difficult to participate in year-round soccer camps or travel leagues. Despite these challenges, the Overfelt team remained focused, worked hard, and stuck together to achieve their goal. That said, I'm going to pass it over to my council colleague, Councilor Ortiz, for a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Candelas. Thank you, Mayor. The Overfelt High School varsity soccer team has accomplished something truly remarkable. This victory was not just a triumph on the field, but also a testament to the grit and determination of the team members in our greater community. The Overfelt soccer team proudly represents the determination of East San Jose, an area where student athletes face significant socioeconomic constraints. Their victory is a reminder that with hard work, dedication, and a supportive community behind them, anything is possible. San Jose, in particular, the East Side, are proud of our Overfelt soccer team and their accomplishments on and off the field. They have set an example for all of us to follow and have shown that anything is possible when we work together towards a common goal. Because of this championship, our community will always remember the Overfelt Royals. Big O, you know, they are a great example of determination and dedication that we see in our East San Jose community. And with that, I would like to congratulate the team, the coaches, and of course, the parents in the audience on their continued success. I look forward to seeing what they will do next. And now I believe we identified 2 student speakers who would like to say a few words, and then we'll ask the mayor to provide a commendation. Introduce yourself.
All right. Good evening. My name is Angel. My name is Angel Torres. I was one of this year's varsity captains, and I'd like to say, like thank you to everyone, especially the family, my friends, the community, the whole team, the coaches. I think we wouldn't have been here with all of you guys. But I think there's like a lesson I've learned was to like never get too comfortable where you're at. I think we've always had that problem here, like in this team. But I think as we learned, we've always strived for more, and I think that was the main lesson I learned, and it helped us the most.
Good evening. My name is Abraham Contreras, and I am a junior. And I just want to give a thanks to everybody for supporting us all the way there, and to this special group of guys with me. They became a family ever since my sophomore year, since freshman was during COVID. The seniors, they greeted me, and I became like at home with them. And it was just such an amazing year. And I want to thank also Delgado, Mr. Kiala, and both Jerry and Senen for always being there, having our backs off and on the field. And just us in general, like even like when it came to like having our grades up, we knew that we needed that first to play, and that was the first step first. And then after that, we knew that we had to get it done on the field. And yeah, thanks to all of my teammates.
And now I think the mayor is going to present the commendation to the team.
To the captain. Where's the captain? All right, we've got one for the captain here. Congratulations on behalf of the council. We had two. I think one was for maybe the coaches. Yeah. All right, we need to get a big photo here.
Say big O. Big O. All right, congratulations.
That was a tough one for Councilmember Foley. Poor Branham. Sorry. All right, well, congrats again, Overfelt. Really proud of you. Okay, with that, we've actually concluded our agenda for today, and we are adjourned. Thank you all very much, and congratulations again.